You just spent $1,000 on a new iPhone. Feels like a lot of money, right? But here's what actually happened. You just traded 100 hours of your life, not $100, 100 hours, 4 full days, 96 waking hours, roughly 2.5 weeks of full time work. That's what you traded. And the thing is, you can make more money. You can't make more time. Every dollar you earn represents a piece of your life that you sold. Hours you sat in traffic, hours you spent in meetings, hours you were away from your kids, your hobbies, your actual life. Money isn't money, it's stored life energy. And when you buy something, you're not spending dollars, you're spending the hours of your life that it took to earn those dollars. And once you understand this, once you really internalize it, you can never look at a purchase the same way again. Let me show you the math because this is where it gets infuriating. The average hourly wage in the United States as of November 2025 is $31.76. So if you're making average money, you're thinking, okay, a $1,000 iPhone is about 31.5 hours of work. That's less than a week, totally manageable. Except that's not your real hourly wage. That's your fake hourly wage. Your real hourly wage is what you actually take home after taxes, after work expenses, after all the time and money you spend to maintain your job. Let me break this down. You make $31.76 an hour gross. Then taxes take about 25% to 30%, depending on your state. So you're down to maybe $23 an hour take home. But you're not done yet. You spend an hour a day commuting. That's unpaid time. You spend 30 minutes getting ready for work, also unpaid. You buy work clothes, lunches, because you don't have time to pack them, gas for the commute, coffee on the way because you're exhausted. Let's say that's another $200 a month in work related expenses. Now let's do the real math. You work 8 hours a day, but you actually spend 10 hours a day on work. When you include commuting and getting ready, you work 5 days a week. So that's 50 hours a week devoted to your job, but you're only paid for 40. Your gross pay is $1,270 a week at $31.76 an hour. After taxes, you take home about $900. After work expenses, you take home about $850. You spent 50 hours to earn that $850. Your real hourly wage isn't $31.76. It's $17. And suddenly that $1,000 iPhone isn't 31.5 hours of your life. It's 58.8 hours, almost 60 hours. But wait, we're still not done because you also have to factor in the time you spend recovering from work. The evenings, you're too tired to do anything productive. The weekends you spend decompressing, the mental energy you burn just existing in the work environment. If we're honest, if we factor in recovery time, your real hourly wage might be closer to $10. And now that iPhone costs you 100 hours of your life, 100 hours. That's not a purchase, that's a sacrifice. Here's what nobody tells you about money: it's not neutral. It's not just a thing you exchange for other things. Money is your life, converted into a form that can be stored and traded. Every dollar in your bank account represents a specific moment of your existence that you sold. The meeting you sat through, the email you wrote, the customer you dealt with, the task you completed. You traded that moment, that piece of your finite time on earth for money. And when you spend that money, you're spending that moment, you're deciding that whatever you're buying is worth more than that piece of your life. And most of the time, we don't think about it that way. We think in dollars. We think it's only $1,000, but it's not $1,000. It's 100 hours of sitting in traffic, 100 hours of being away from your family, 100 hours of doing things you probably don't enjoy. Is the new iPhone worth that? Maybe. Maybe it genuinely improves your life enough to justify 100 hours. But probably not. Probably the iPhone you have right now works fine, and this is just an upgrade to something marginally better that you're buying because new feels good. Let me paint you a different picture because this is where the concept of time currency becomes genuinely life altering. Let's say you're 30 years old. You're probably going to live until you're about 80, so you have 50 years left. That's 438,000 hours. Sounds like a lot, right? Except you're going to sleep for about a third of that. So now you're down to 292,000 waking hours. You're probably going to work for the next 35 years until you retire at 65. That's 91,000 hours of work based on a 50-hour work week when you include commuting and prep time. So you're down to 201,000 hours of actual free time over the rest of your entire life. Now, let's say you earn $50,000 a year after taxes. That means every year you trade 2,600 hours of your life for that income. Your real hourly wage is $19.23. Every time you spend $19.23, you're spending 1 hour of your finite, irreplaceable life. That $1,000 iPhone, that's 52 hours. The $50,000 car, that's 2,600 hours, an entire year of your working life. The $300,000 house, that's 15,600 hours. That's 6 full years of every waking moment you have left. And here's the thing that's going to make you angry. Most of what you buy isn't worth it when you calculate it in hours. That $7 coffee, that's 22 minutes of your life. The $50 dinner, that's 2.6 hours. The $200 night out, that's 10.4 hours. The $30,000 car upgrade from a perfectly functional used car to a new one, that's 1,560 hours, almost an entire year of free time. We've been trained to think in dollars, and dollars feel abstract. They feel renewable, but hours aren't renewable. Hours are your life, and you have a fixed supply. Every purchase you make is a choice about how to spend that fixed supply. And most of us are making those choices unconsciously. We're trading our lives for stuff without ever doing the math on whether the stuff is worth the life. This is why consumerism is so insidious. And it's not because it's expensive in dollars, it's because it's expensive in time. The system we live in is built on the idea that you should work as much as possible to earn as much as possible, to spend as much as possible. And the more you spend, the more you have to work. And the more you work, the less life you have. You're on a treadmill, trading your finite existence for an infinite parade of stuff that you think will make you happy, but never does. Because here's the secret they don't want you to know: happiness doesn't come from stuff, it comes from time, from freedom, from having control over how you spend your hours. And every dollar you spend on stuff is a dollar you didn't save. And every dollar you didn't save is more time you have to keep working, more hours you have to sell, more of your life you have to trade away. Let me introduce you to a concept that's going to fundamentally change how you see your job and your money, the crossover point. This is the point where your investment income exceeds your expenses, where the money you've saved generates enough passive income that you don't have to work anymore. You've bought back your time, you've reclaimed your life. And the math on getting to this point is actually simple. If you can live on $40,000 a year and you have $1 million invested in index funds averaging a 4% safe withdrawal rate, you've hit the crossover point. You're done. You never have to work again. Your investments generate $40,000 a year, which covers your expenses. You own all your time. Every hour of every day belongs to you. But here's the brutal reality: most people will never hit the crossover point because they spend every dollar they earn. They buy the new iPhone, the new car, the bigger house, the expensive vacation. They trade their life for stuff, and then they have to keep working to maintain the stuff. They never accumulate enough saved life energy, enough stored time to buy their freedom. Now let's run the math on what happens when you don't buy the iPhone. You have that $1,000. Instead of spending it, you invest it. Average stock market returns over the long term are about 10% annually. In 10 years, that $1,000 becomes $2,594. In 20 years, it's $6,727. In 30 years, it's $17,449. That's not just money, that's time. At a real hourly wage of $17, that $17,449 represents 1,026 hours of your life that you no longer have to work. That's 128 8-hour days. That's over 6 months of full time work that you've bought back from one purchase you didn't make, from one moment where you said, no, I'm not trading 100 hours of my life for a marginal upgrade to a device that already works. And if you do this consistently, if you apply this thinking to every purchase, you can compress your working years. Instead of working until you're 65, you work until you're 55 or 45 or 35. You buy back decades of your life, not so you can be rich, so you can be free. Here's where the psychology gets really interesting. And this is something nobody talks about. When you start seeing purchases as time instead of money, your entire value system shifts. You stop asking, can I afford this? And start asking, is this worth X hours of my life? And most of the time, the answer is no. That $50 dinner isn't worth 2.6 hours of sitting in traffic. That $1,000 phone isn't worth 100 hours away from your kids. That $50,000 car isn't worth an entire year of your finite existence. You start to realize that your time, your actual life, is more valuable than almost anything you could buy with it. And this realization makes you wealthy in a way that has nothing to do with your bank account because you stop needing stuff. You stop using consumption to fill the void. You stop trading your life for the temporary dopamine hit of buying something new. There's a reason the system doesn't want you to think this way. The entire consumer economy depends on you not doing this math, on you thinking in dollars instead of hours, on you being disconnected from the reality that your money is your life and spending your money is spending your life. Because if everyone understood this, if everyone started calculating their real hourly wage and pricing everything in hours, consumer spending would collapse. People would stop buying stuff they don't need. They'd stop financing cars. They'd stop upgrading phones every 2 years. They'd stop keeping up with the neighbors. They'd start accumulating savings, building investments, reaching the crossover point. And the economy, as currently structured, can't function if people do that. The economy needs you to spend, to consume, to stay on the treadmill, to keep trading your life for stuff. So you have to keep working to maintain the stuff. It's a trap. And the only way out is to see the trap, to do the math, to understand what you're actually trading. So here's the identity shift. And this is the hardest part because it requires you to completely reprogram how you think about purchases. Every time you're about to buy something, you need to pause and calculate, take the price, divide it by your real hourly wage. That's how many hours of your life this thing costs. Then ask yourself, is this worth that many hours? Is this pair of shoes worth 10 hours of my life? Is this vacation worth 200 hours? Is this car worth 3,000 hours? Sometimes the answer is yes. Sometimes the thing genuinely improves your quality of life enough to justify the hours, but most of the time, the answer is no. Most of the time, you're buying out of habit or boredom or because you're trying to impress people who don't care about you. And once you see that, once you really internalize that you're trading your finite life for infinite stuff that doesn't matter, you stop. You stop spending. You start saving, not to be rich, to be free. Let me tell you what freedom actually looks like in this framework, because I think we've lost sight of what we're actually trying to achieve. Freedom isn't having $1 million in the bank. Freedom is having enough saved life energy that you don't have to sell any more of your actual life. Freedom is waking up on a Monday morning and not having to go anywhere, not having to do anything, not having to trade 8 hours of your finite existence for money. Freedom is having your time belong to you. And the path to that freedom is simple: earn money, don't spend it, invest it, and wait. Every dollar you don't spend is a piece of your life you're buying back. Every dollar you invest is compound interest working to accelerate your escape from the treadmill. And every year you live below your means is a year you shave off your working life. This isn't about deprivation. It's about knowing what you're trading. It's about making conscious choices about how to spend the only resource that actually matters, your time. Here's what's going to happen when you start thinking this way. You're going to look at your life and realize how much of it you've already traded away for stuff that doesn't matter. The clothes in your closet you never wear, the gadgets you bought and forgot about, the car that's nicer than you need, the house that's bigger than you need. All of it represents hours of your life, days, maybe years that you sold and can never get back. And that's going to hurt. That's going to feel like grief because it is grief. You're grieving the time you wasted, but then you're going to look at your future and realize you still have time left. You still have hours you haven't sold yet, and you can choose to sell fewer of them. You can choose to keep more of your life for yourself. You can choose to stop trading your existence for stuff and start accumulating the resources to buy your existence back. And that choice, that shift, is what actually changes everything. The final thing I need you to understand is that this isn't about the iPhone. The iPhone is just the example. This is about every purchase, every dollar, every hour. This is about recognizing that you have roughly 200,000 free hours left in your life. If you're 30, and every one of those hours is precious and finite and irreplaceable. And the question you need to ask yourself, the only question that actually matters is, what do I want to do with those hours? Do I want to spend them working to buy stuff, or do I want to own them? Because you can't do both. You can't consume endlessly and be free. You have to choose stuff or time, performance or peace, the treadmill or the exit. And most people never make the choice consciously. They just keep trading and trading and trading until they're 65 and they finally stop working. And they realize they traded 90,000 hours of their life and they don't even remember what they bought with most of it. Don't be most people. Do the math, calculate your real hourly wage, price everything in hours, and then ask yourself, is this worth my life? Because that's what you're spending, not dollars, your life. Stop trying to look rich. Start getting free.